intend to talk about is kind of the gap year that I'm currently on, as well as how it's changed my approach to financial independence. Okay, so Stephen knew that I would be nervous when I gave this presentation. I do have a little bit of stage fright, so he kind of encouraged that I talked about something that I was confident in and passionate about to kind of like get the ball rolling a little bit. So I'm just going to take like a couple of minutes to talk about something that I'm passionate about before I begin the presentation. So I'm going to spend like 2 minutes talking about my top 5 labor positions for engaging the cervix during active labor. You didn't know this about me. I love the birth community, and I'm going to midwifery school next year. So, all right, so number 1. Just kidding. I felt like one face in the room and their face just like dropped.
Now I'm curious though.
Potential side group. So my name is Ashleigh. I'm 28 years old. I just separated recently from the active duty Navy, where I spent 6 years as a surface warfare officer. So I drove ships for a career. I sold one of my 2 rental properties in March, and I've been a part of the financial independence community since about 2016, and then I came to my first CampFI conference in 2018, so this is my 3rd one. All right, so if you can just kind of tolerate a bit of self-aggrandizement for a second, there's a couple of things financially that I need to talk about, just kind of background for this gap year, and then we can go ahead and kick it off. So 1, almost a year ago to the date, I was accepted into the Yale School of Nursing midwifery program, which is where I intended to enroll in 2019. In preparation, I became debt-free, paid off about $30,000 in debt in February, sold a house in March and made 6 figures, and then I was going to matriculate in August of 2019. All this to say that I had a plan. This is when the story gets good, right? So adventure stories always have 2 parts, right? They have the plan, and then they have like the proverbial record scratch, that like wicket moment in life where like your plan just like goes to hell. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Very well.
Yeah. So I'm going to start the story off with my record scratch, where my plan didn't didn't come to fruition anymore. And my record scratch moment was when we hit a ship. So we were sailing, coming out of port in Montreal, Canada, early in June, about 6 weeks before I was supposed to start school. And we were swept away by a current, and it carried us into the tanker that was parked right alongside of us. No one was injured, no one was killed, there was no water damage, so there was no hole intrusions. But it is naval custom that if a naval ship ever runs into another ship, the captain is immediately relieved. So my CO, who was a phenomenal individual and just an all-around great person, was flown back to the United States about 4 days later, and we got a new CO. So just to kind of put you in the mindset that this new CO was under, right? He was flown off of his ship onto another ship in a foreign country. He was expected to sail this ship from said foreign country through the St. Lawrence Canal into the Atlantic Ocean, all the way south from Canada to Jacksonville, Florida, with a crew that he has never sailed with before, on a ship that he's never been on before, that is part of a platform that very, very few people in the Navy understand. So a little bit of pressure there, right? That probably influenced his decision to deny my paid time off in preparation from school. And instead of allowing me to leave the ship on August 3rd, approving a date of August 16th, when school started August 19th, effectively rendering me unable to start Yale in August 2019. This was really important. Thank you. This was a really important slide for me to put in here. This is a period. And for many people, thousands of people in America, this would have been the end of a very sad and short and slightly depressing and soul-crushing story. But it's not a period, it's an ellipses, which means it continues on. And the reason why it continues on, honestly, is because of this camp right here. Particularly Doug Nordman, Steve, and Dave. 3 years ago or 2 years ago, they sat me down and told me my finances were a mess and put me on the track that ultimately enabled me to do everything that I did in 2019 that basically gave me the ability to take this gap year in the first place. So when MK kind of talks about CampFI changing lives, I'm one of those people she's talking about, right? So thank you again. When you put financial independence in that kind of mindset, right, it changes the conversation. It changes it from just like a recreational activity or a lifestyle option to almost a need, right? You literally buy back the insurance of one event or one person changing the course of your life. So keep that in mind. That was important to me. Okay, so my last day of the Navy was August 31st, and by September 11th, I was on a plane out of the country. I tried zebra in South Africa. I saw a waterfall in Zimbabwe. I swam in said waterfall in Zambia. I climbed trees, crossed deserts, got a hug from a Himbo woman, ate with Himbo women, and then I made probably better friends than I've made since college. In other words, I was having literally the time of my life until something changed. When this picture was taken, it was taken around 4 p.m. That's because I could not get out of bed until 4 p.m. When I usually, the weeks before, would leave, you try to capitalize on your day. I would leave around 8 p.m. and then suddenly that just started to change, right? I had so much free time. Why rush? What's the rush? Whatever I don't get done today, I'll do tomorrow. And then that slowly changed into a few days after this picture was taken. I stopped leaving completely for about 3 days, 2 or 3 days. I did not leave my Airbnb. And on that final day, I just took everything out of the refrigerator and I put it on the nightstand. So I didn't have to leave bed. And then when this picture was taken in Positano, Italy, I was leaving around 7 or 8 p.m. because I had to eat, and then I would continue to have panic attacks and anxiety for the rest of the night. So this is when I take a break in my story and I get to the meat and potatoes of this conversation. We frequently talk about financial independence like it's a marathon, right? You have your FI number, you run for 5, 10, 12, 15 years until you get to the end of the finish line, and then you ran your marathon, you made it to the land of milk and honey, and poof, you're done, right? Not necessarily. Financial independence is more of like a half marathon, the halfway point. The real marathon is living a life of intentionality and fulfillment that you have achieved based on the decisions that you've made. So what I am proposing to you today is that you include more mindfulness, more happiness, more peace, more intentionality before you reach the 5 point, so that you don't have to learn it after you reach your slight FI or your gap FI like I did. Okay, so here are 5 little tips or 5 kind of propositions for living a more holistic and approaching FI from a more holistic standpoint. Okay, so number 1, there is deeper emotional work, kind of like MK talked about, right? One of the people that I also interviewed was Julian Saunders of Rich and Regular, who I think he stopped working in June of 2018. And one of the ways that he said he was prepared for taking his time off of work is that he had already done the deeper emotional work of separating his identity from his role at his job. I struggled with the opposite. I knew that I was not a surface warfare officer. My identity was not trapped into what I did. The question that I would propose that you start answering now is not what you're not. Do you know what you are? And once you start answering that question, it really opens up it really streamlines your ability to approach financial independence. Number 2, find your tribe. One of the most profound things that Bianca said when I interviewed her is that you have to have a tribe, you have to have a community. And if you don't have a community, make it. So one of the things that she did over the summer is she started the Caboose Club, I guess you can call it, which is basically a empty, vacant train with a train caboose that she turned into little homes or vacation homes for people in the FI community. This is profound, especially for people in my position who are single with no kids, especially when you travel all over the world, because you don't have a place that you have roots in. And then you find that those roots are kind of anchored into your identity. Those roots become your home. Those roots are, how your family contacts you. They're the place that you go back to year after year after year. So it's really important to find your tribe. And like MK said, maybe your tribe is here, and maybe it's just a matter of investing in this community. Okay, write a roadmap to meaning. So J.D. Roth has a post where he talks about finding your purpose and how happiness is linked to your purpose, especially after financial independence. One of the things in that post is that 91% of reportedly happy retirees have a well-defined purpose in life. And on the flip side, 89% of retirees that report that they're unhappy have not identified what their purpose is. So in the show notes, if you're interested, he has like an activity of kind of identifying what your purpose is. I think so it's not necessarily that you have to know what your purpose is so much as you have to have a plan to find it, and kind of have a plan to find out who you are as a person. Okay. Number 4, daily happiness accountability. This was huge for me. You learn that once you achieve financial independence, your life, the biggest thing that you do is you change your life from predetermined, so you have to be at work by this time, you have to be at home to have dinner ready by this time, you have to, be here and there and here and there, to literally every second of every day, every single decision that you make is based on you. Your life went in an instant from predetermined to self-determined, and that's a lot of pressure. That's a lot to think about. So basically, you had a job, you had a business, you had something that took your focus and responsibility, and then your mind and your body became that business and became that focus and responsibility. One thing that Physician on Fire said is that he firmly believes that fitness is a key component of having a long-lasting retirement. And then one thing that Julian said is that he ate clean, worked out, and rested for 45 days after he stopped working, which I should have done. It makes a profound difference. And finally, and here's a really good article about mindfulness if you would like to talk about that later as well. And finally, and this one's for me, if something is not right, absolutely ask for help. You wouldn't watch your portfolio, your stock portfolio, run into the ground. So don't stand idly by while you watch your mind and body do the same. But please take that with a grain of salt. I am not advocating for timing the market. It is just a phrase. So this story ends on a good note, right? This is a happy story. With the resources and the time that I bought with financial independence, I was able to identify some of those triggers that caused me to spiral so fast while I was on financial independence. And I realized that I was struggling with not reporting a sexual harassment and even some reprisal that happened in the military. So what did I do with my free time? What did I do with the freedom? I reported it. I realized that there were certain things and behaviors and mindsets that didn't serve me and starting this next chapter of my life and going to Yale. So I have the time to address them. I have the time to set new habits to get ready for Yale. So this story ends on a positive note. Really what I want you to get out of this brief, right, is if you're in Marrakesh, Morocco, leave your room. If you're in Positano, Italy, eat pizza morning, noon, and night, not just at 7 or 8 because you can't leave. And for the love of God, if you are in Paris, make it to the Eiffel Tower. Thank you.
What does zebra taste like?
What does zebra taste like?
Yeah.
It's kind of gamey.
Oh.
Not chicken, more beef. It's
See
like
that?
a thin, gamey. Does gamey mean chewy? So I'm not a big meat person, but I had to do it because I'm in South Africa. It's good, especially with the sauce that they put on it, but it's like chewy. I would say it's like a slender cow.
Good question.
Yeah. I had to ask. As soon as the slide came out, I'm like, oh my gosh.
Good. It's good. Yeah.
So where are you headed between now and when you start Yale?
So my thing for 2020 was kind of like you said, like lifestyle. Instead of focusing on finances, I said in 2020, I'm going to focus on investing more in my friendships, putting more energy into the people that I love because I've been gone in the military and they've kind of taken a back burner. So I have one more drill period in February that's in Italy. So I'll be in Italy for all of February. And then my best friend has been on deployment since, it's been about a 10.5-month deployment. So she wants to go to Bali. So we're going to Bali. And then I'm going to go to Connecticut, set roots, and start looking for housing and getting ready for school. So that's my 2020. Nice. Yeah.
What are some of the habits that you find? You said you're kind of focusing on developing really good habits. Have you developed anything that's been either really impactful or that helped you get out of that spiraling down area?
To be completely honest, like that's why, like, if I contributed anything, so the real whiz kids were like, you know, Julian and Bianca, but my contribution was like, it really is valuable to bring a professional, objective, third-party opinion into your thoughts. If I could say one thing has been pivotal to this entire thing, it's just been having someone being like, why did you think that? Like, what kind of question is that? Why did you think that? I wrote it down to do today. Like, I didn't plan for these thoughts. But when someone challenges your mindset, you know what I mean? Why did you think that thought? It helps you identify some of the habits that you form that aren't good. So I started journaling, and that kind of, I can't argue with what I already wrote, you know what I mean? I wrote it, the proof is in the pudding. So I can read, you know, some of the things that I've done. And that's really helped. And honestly, just being more intentional, saying, I'm gonna wake up, I'm gonna journal, I'm going to eat clean for 45 days, I'm going to run 2.5 miles every day. Those have been really helpful in just showing me that, like, when you're not working, you are the captain of your own ship, the master of your own fate. You know, you determine the course of your life completely. You have no one else to turn to, and just kind of experimenting with that and seeing, like, you know, okay, what does it mean if I speak at CampFI and I put myself out there? Like, how does that affect the course of my life? That's really, it's been helpful and eye-opening and scary, but helpful.
Thank you.
You had an excellent point with the plan falling apart, because we put so much time and effort into building the perfect plan that's we're just gonna step on our own footprints and it's gonna be awesome. And then minute one, everything just evaporates and none of it came true, but it's still okay. You know, and I thought I was the only one that ever happened to. So,
But it feels
Nobody
like
talks
that.
about
Yeah.
that, yeah.
it does,
Yeah.
it does, because like you said, it was such a long marathon running up to that finish line, and then you get to the finish line and it's nothing what you planned.
No,
And it's good to hear that it's not just me.
it's not just you.
Okay.
Not just you. I love
That's
it.
awesome.
Yeah. And I think it really kind of puts financial independence in a different perspective that we have to think about, right? It's like, this is fortunate, this is huge. Like, we can handle a lot more unexpected obstacles than the average American because of the decisions that we make. And it really kind of changes it into, maybe this isn't just a decision, like, this lifestyle is necessary in a lot of ways.
Are you willing to share if the third-party observer, was that a therapist or a coach, and how did you find the right person?
Timing. We have a lot of resources in the military, but I was short on time. I really got to a place where it was like, I can't wait for this. So I just got on BetterHelp, and they were right there, and you know, within a couple hours, I was talking to somebody. So, yay, BetterHelp.
So that's through the military?
No, it's
No.
not. It
Oh.
is. I found them on a Facebook ad.
Okay.
I did. And yep, called them. And
Yeah.
we've
It's-
been going strong ever since.
Better health.
Help.
Better help.
Yep. Yep. BetterHelp. So, but she's not a psychiatrist. She's a licensed LCSW.
Yeah.
Social worker. Really? Didn't expect that.
They're just letters.
Oh,
They're just letters finding it.
that's how I treated it. Apparently, I have no idea what that stood for. So.
So your original plan didn't include this gap year. Do you think even though you went through that, always in hindsight, we're like, oh, now I know why life threw me that way. How's it gonna, but now you're gonna start school and start working, like, I assume when you started the military, you're just going on autopilot, you're doing what you're supposed to, but now you're more intentional with this new career. So what, do you think the gap year helped you, how are you gonna approach this new?
I am a huge believer in serendipity, right? I'm a huge believer in manifestation and kind of like life really works the way that it's supposed to. Everything happens for a reason. And this gap year happened for a reason. I kind of, the way the military works, I don't think I would have done as well as I will now because I've had time to digest 6 years of the military. I needed this time to digest my time in the military, close this chapter, open up Yale, prepare for it, mentally get there, and then start, school hitting the ground running. So that was the biggest thing is like, the way that 2019 went for me is we went to Wisconsin to commission this ship, right? So I got rid of my place, I went to Wisconsin, or I got rid of my place, I sold my car, I went to Wisconsin, I commissioned a ship, and we hit another ship, and then we came back down, and then we commissioned another ship, and then I found out I wasn't going to Yale. I didn't stop and think about a single thing all year, right? And to end a career like that, and then start a RN program in a year, and then get a master's, it wouldn't have gone well. So life took care of it, and that's how I see it, so.
Do you think you'll incorporate sabbaticals or gap years and be planful about them in the future? Meaning, like, I'm gonna circle 2027, and I'm not, it's kind of an interesting, not having a number or a plan, but having 5 or 10 of them. It's sort of
Like the mini retirement philosophy? It depends. It depends on, I used to side hustle as a doula, and I worked with a home birth midwife, and I love it. I cannot describe to you the feeling that I get of being in the presence of someone achieve one of the hardest things in their life, and get to see it from beginning and end. How many things in life are there where you can see someone go from having no idea what comes ahead of them to this isn't happening, I can't do this, to doing it, in a period of, it depends. Sometimes it varies. So, depending on my field, if I absolutely love it and I fall in love with it, maybe never. If there comes a time where I'm like super burnt out and I'm like, nope, then I have that option. And I think that's really the purpose of CampFI is to say, like, you have options. If you find yourself in the position of NK, don't take a gap year. If you love what you do, don't take a break if you don't want to. If you find yourself in my position where you're kind of burnt out from the military, take the gap year. And if life gives you a gap year that you weren't expecting, that's okay too.
You're gonna be the mindset midwife.
I like that.
I like that too. Gotta agree.
You can totally use it.
Thank you. I'll hit you up on the side.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask you, so in the pictures, there was 4 p.m. and that's kind of like in your story when it happened, when things started to go another direction. Was there any triggers or things that you noticed? Like we see the pictures and we see all these great things. Was there things going on before then that maybe, like looking back now, that you realize like, oh, I saw that?
Like that moment, it was this thing.
Yeah. Or
Yes.
even other like certain things that happened.
So I went back on my Facebook because I kind of like journaled this on Facebook, and I went back and I noticed that I was like, I'm really tired, and I had no idea, right? I just thought it was from, the suitcase thing, right? Like moving, unpacking. So I was like, I'm really tired. And then it was actually when my first drill period, I had to put the uniform back on, and I like bugged out, and I was like, no, I can't do this. And that's when I kind of realized like, okay, there's something about my military service that I have to work through. So it was kind of like that moment for me. But before, no, I had no idea. I just thought I was really sleepy.
So you're getting into a career. A lot of people are already in their career and they're trying to figure out how to get out of their career, and you're getting started. Do you feel that because of your mindset, though, you're going into it as I'm going into doing something, you're already doing it after, you're like, I know I want to do this. Kind of, like a lot of people here are working, they want to get out of that, but they're still going to do something afterwards. Do you feel like you're already at that something afterwards in your mindset?
Maybe.
Like, I love this and that's why I'm doing this, or?
Yeah, so kind of going to that serendipity thing and the way that life worked, I actually joined the military to be an OBGYN. So I've like wanted to deliver babies for as long as I can remember, and then life kind of took me on this path where it was like, okay, I did ROTC, and then I became a SWO, and then I found this other midwife, and it put me on this path that was like, I don't want to be an OBGYN. That's not how I want to deliver babies. This is how I want to deliver babies. So me personally, the question was never like, what is your calling? Because I've always kind of felt like this was my calling. Yeah.
But you have the freedom to go about it the way you want instead of letting like life lead you. You're leading life.
Sometimes. Sometimes. Yeah. I personally approach financial independence, I think, a little differently. I approach it where life kind of leads me where it wants me to go, and then as long as I have the resources and the finances to kind of be able to stabilize it, in the way that I want, I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
So I kind of approach it from a happiness, a wholeness kind of aspect, and then just make sure I have the finances where, it's not like overwhelmingly like, I'm not gonna let life drive me off a cliff, basically. Yeah.
Whenever, you talked about how Doug and David, she said David, that's my brother, sat down with you, and then you made some changes after that. Like, I know that you talked about selling a house or whatever, but like, can you talk about like your situation before you started making those changes?
Yeah.
And then like maybe the timeline, what you did,
Okay.
and then like the difference that it made to you? Maybe?
Okay. So that was January of 2018. I had an $11,000 car note, about $17,000 personal loan that I had used to rehab the house that I sold. I had about $8,000 of credit card debt. I think that's it. So I, after sitting with you guys, I actually took out a TSP loan. That personal loan had a 13.5% interest rate. Wow. Yeah. So, just to kind of you know, what I did in my mind is I treated it like the mortgage on the house, and that's kind of how I justified it in my head. That house was free and clear, so that rehab loan, that personal finance, was kind of like the mortgage that the tenants paid. So I used TSP money, paid off that 13.5% loan, and TSP is our like 401k in the military. That took it down to a 2.5% interest rate. I sold the car and just kind of mooched off friends until I left for Wisconsin. So I actually haven't had a car in going on 2 years.
Yay.
Yay.
Only in this group is that really cool.
So got rid of my car, knowing that I was going to be, you know, leaving, you know, kind of going on a mini deployment, if you will, for a couple of months. So that's the personal loan, the car, and then I got a roommate, which decreased my expenses by $700. So between selling the car, decreasing that interest rate to 2.5%, and then getting a roommate and, you know, kind of increasing, I guess, my income by $700, I was able to knock out that loan within like a couple months. So, yeah. And then, because I guess I'm assuming the root in the question is like, where the heck did you get all this money from? And then on top of that, because I was in Wisconsin, because I didn't have a house, and because I didn't have a car, I was still getting BAH from the military because I was TAD, I didn't leave on my own fruition, and I was still getting my income. So I had about 8 months of just pocketing the money, and that's the money that I lived off of when I was traveling. So.
Do you think about, so if life had happened the way all of us happened, but you didn't have that plan in place, that would have been, do you think about that sometimes? Like you hadn't had that conversation with everybody?
No, like if I wasn't part of the community,
Yes.
no, I don't, and I'll tell you why. No.
Like, don't even go there.
But you have to go, to be honest, you have to go there, right? Because that is where the average American is.
Yeah.
I'm not an exception. This isn't an exceptional story by any way, shape, or form. People in the military, we call it operational hold, which is basically when you're supposed to leave on a certain date, and the military says, we can't support that date anymore, we need this person to stay. Happens every day. Luckily, my stars just align, but for the average person, it doesn't.
Yeah.
What are they supposed to do? You know, I have a year, thank God I have a mom that's like, I don't care what you do, so, you know, she lets me come and go as I, you know, but if people don't have supportive families, if people don't have, so I don't think about it at all.
Yeah.
If you had to start over again, having had the experience that you've had, do you think you would go start in the military again?
That is a question of, I don't know. I remember like going in college and my best friend telling me, Ashleigh, the struggle is beautiful. The struggle is beautiful. The struggle is beautiful. There's purpose there. There is growth there. It's there that you are going to become, you know, the titans of financial independence that we see. What we don't see is everything that ChooseFi had to go through to become the ChooseFi that we know. Paula Pan, same thing, you know. You have to overcome something in order to become great. With that being said, what we don't talk about is how much that something hurts. And it hurt. I'm not gonna lie to you, it was rough. So I can stand here and say I'm appreciative of what I've gone through. I don't know if I can stand here and say I would do it all over again. I don't. So these are like deep questions, guys. Oh my god.
Well, it's good to know because we were talking to MK earlier. She's talking about we have everybody in this room. There's doctors and lawyers and accountants, and now we have an OBGYN and a doula.
We start our own country, we have everything we need.
If you're like ever, you know, pregnant.
So
and
now you can
wanted
come to
to,
CampFI pregnant, you're like 9 months pregnant, and you know, she's there.
Just like breathe, you're like,
All right, so we just have a